Hello, friends. Welcome to Experience Data Talk, a weekly show where we talk with data science leaders and technologists from around the world. My name is Mike Delgado, and this is episode 114. And today we're doing something a little different. We're talking with Tiffany Shlain about her new book, 24/6, The Power of Unplugging One Day a Week. We're having a discussion about device distractions, technology overload, and why we need to set more boundaries with how we're using our devices. Tiffany points out in today's show that even though we're more connected with others, with social networking apps and being able to text message each other, we're also becoming more disconnected, especially when we're around our family and friends and pay attention to what's on our phone rather than the people right in front of us. In some ways, we're slaves to our phones. We obey every notification. We feel a need to check our phones on a regular basis. In fact, one recent stat tells us that we're picking up our phones over 80 times a day. And when we're doing that, it's actually hard to be present with those people that we're around. And it's also hard to actually focus on the important tasks that we need to work on. Tiffany's latest book isn't just a call to action to think about the ways we're abusing technology, but she also provides actionable and practical ways that we can unplug and be more present with those around us. Tiffany's been named by Newsweek as one of the women shaping the 21st century. She's an Emmy-nominated filmmaker and founder. She's an author, creator. She's given keynotes at Google, NASA, Harvard, TEDWomen and TEDMED. I had the opportunity to see her in person when she was talking about her new book at an event near me. And I was just blown away at how personable and how funny and also how collaborative she is in the way that she presents. Here's our conversation with Tiffany. Welcome to Data Talk.
I'm happy to be here. Hello.
So we had to postpone our original podcast because something super exciting happened. You had emailed me and told me that your book was featured at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, and there was some sort of spoken cinema. Can you talk about what happened?
Yeah. So basically, I'm a filmmaker, but I've been experimenting for years with something I'm calling spoken cinema, where I'm speaking on stage, but it's like a live movie, and I have cinematic images behind me, and I have a soundtrack playing. And the Museum of Modern Art in New York just premiered my show called Dear Human, which is based on my book 24/6. So that happened Saturday night. So I have been in a cave preparing, and then it happened, and it was so exciting.
Oh my gosh. What was that? What was that like?
It was like the culmination of my whole life, actually. That's what it felt like. I mean, MoMA is just such a it's such an idealized place for me. And my father wrote a book called Art and Physics. And, he used to take us to MoMA every time we went to New York. And then to have them feature my work was just so exciting. And, it's like a 1-hour show, and it was sold out and got a standing ovation. And it was just a dream. I mean, I think a couple of my friends that have seen my whole career, they said everything was leading up to this night because I did a lot of, when I ran the Webby Awards, I did a lot of experiments with audience participation, and I integrated that into the show. I do a lot of speaking, and then I make a lot of movies. And then to bring it kind of all into one space about this issue, I think I'm really passionate about, which is how do we stay human when everyone is staring at their screens all the time? And what are the important parts of humanity to maintain as we kind of rush into the future? And that was the topic. So it was something I felt really passionate about. And it just brought in this new medium I'm experimenting with called spoken cinema. So it just was the culmination of, I felt like, my whole life. That's the way I felt.
That's huge. Well, congratulations. That is like super, super exciting and super fulfilling to have that happen. And I'm kind of curious, like, as you were preparing for this event, I never even heard the term spoken cinema, but as you're preparing to talk,
that's my term. It's a kind of a new one.
How did you want to talk about these concepts that are in 24/6 in a way that is going to point out some of the problems you see with the use of digital technology, at the same time using technology to help point out the problems?
That's a really good question. I mean, I felt like I really wanted to hold up a mirror to the way we're living right now. So I created a lot of new animations. I also worked with this photographer, Eric Pinkerskill, who does this amazing series called Removed, where he just shows people with their cell phones removed, just staring down in all these different settings. So I think at the beginning, and I have a lot of humor. I'm always trying to make people laugh when they're dealing with something heavy, because I do think it's heavy that when I started the Webby Awards in the 1990s, my hope was it would connect ideas and people in all these new ways. But I never imagined that the aftermath of all the connection was disconnection from the people right in front of you. So I really tried to hold up a mirror and say, what are we doing here? Is this the world we want to live in? Everyone's staring down all the time. And of course, I love technology, but how do we take a moment and look at when does technology amplify who we are as humans and when does it amputate our connection, and really walk people. And I really try to take a wide view of the original vision of the web, where I think it took a wrong turn, where I think we are today, and what we need to do to move forward and to be more mindful with how we use it and how we want to shape it. And because I do have a background in tech, I came from it with a real, really showing the history from the Webbies to the 2000s to the 2000s. I went kind of decade by decade. And so it was really good to articulate and visualize a lot of the issues that I see. And then, of course, it was all kind of based on this book that I wrote, which for the last 10 years, my family and I turn off all screens one day a week. And what that going cold turkey from all screens one day a week really gives you a unique perspective. In the book, I kind of go through all these things with words and tell my own personal journey with technology, still loving it, but really seeing a lot of the limitations of it and when it makes things worse. So I think that was the whole journey. So it was, originally I ended the show by reading from the book, but I had a work in progress and someone's like, don't read from the book, just sit and memorize it. So it was interesting to kind of spend the last 2 years working on a book.
Yeah.
Have it go out into the world, and lots of people are now doing tech Shabbats on their own, and it's really helping them, which feels great. But then turn the whole thing into a show and not mention the book. After I've been it was very interesting, yeah.
And you said that you have audience participation. How does that work?
Yeah, I did a lot of things where I had people talk to someone next to them about something. I had people raise their hands on certain things. I mean, I think I'm going to take it further the next time I do the show. Bring some people onto the stage with me. But I always love going to a show, that tension of just that you're part of it. It's not just we're all watching something, but how do you feel about this? And write it down. We handed out something where everyone could write and then they could share it. And so it was really, and this is the other interesting thing is that the first part of my career at the Webby Awards, like you could only experience the Webbies if you were at the Webby Awards at like the San Francisco Opera House, 3,000 people. Only those people could experience it. And then I really went back to filmmaking where all of my work could really scale and I could send my movie out without me. It doesn't need me. But now I'm kind of back to wanting to create an experience that you have to physically be there to really understand what it is. So that's also a little bit of a full circle journey for me.
And it's so cool that you've number one, written this book to talk about what you've been doing for the last 10 years, which is this taking this break from tech once a week and sharing your story. I'm kind of curious about the initial reactions that you received when you first sent off the manuscripts. I'm just curious about the feedback you received early on.
It was interesting because there have been 3 or 4 books about how to break up with your phone, or there was the year that I was sending my book out, there was quite a few books about tech addiction. And I remember at one point somebody's like, oh, the book's already been done. And I was like, no, it hasn't. I mean, I'm from the tech industry. I've done something decade that's changed my life. These are all short-term fixes that people are writing about. And I do believe that you're the only one that can tell your story. And so I actually, when I with my agent, so once I finalized on an agent and she sent it out, it had a bidding war. There was multiple publishing houses that wanted it. So that conversation I told you was with kind of a high-powered agent who was like, oh, I think that book's out there. You should have written this 2 years ago. I was like, I don't know. This is only getting worse. But, the book's done really well. And I think we do have something that works, that's free and simple, that our kids love, our whole family loves, that we've been doing for a decade, that really has brought great balance back into our lives and perspective and all these things that I think are missing from a lot of people's lives right now because we're on the screen so much. So I really trusted that I had something to share. And again, because I'm a woman from the tech industry, And I think that's been a real missing voice is women from the tech industry. I didn't feel, there was interest right away when I sent the manuscript, and actually sold it before the book was done. I sent a proposal. But I really enjoyed the whole process. I mean, I felt like it was a gift to be able to focus deeply on a subject for really a year total, but then the whole process of the book was 2 years with editing it and everything. But, and then going out around, for my book tour, which has been like the last 5 minutes, I must have done like 30 or 40 events at very different places, like young people, old people, different backgrounds, and everyone feels like it's too much. What can they do? So everyone's looking for something, and it feels really wonderful to offer people something. And now I have, ironically, a Facebook group called 24/6 Living, where all these people are doing tech Shabbats now. Oh. And, people with kids, people without kids, Jewish, Catholic, atheists, it's like, and that was my whole goal, to kind of liberate this very old idea of Shabbat, call it a tech Shabbat, which is what my family calls it, and really make it available for everyone as just a practice that people can do that can make their life better.
I remember sharing it with some friends here at work, and I was also talking to my wife about it. And a lot of the initial reactions I received was, what, like 1 day without technology? Like, that's crazy. And I was like, no. I'm like, you got to check out the book, kind of understand the process. It's really about setting those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was immediately drawn to it. When I saw you at the JCC with my friend, we had done this like digital detox retreat. Which is basically, we did like a 2-day retreat where there was no technology. We even went on a silent retreat too, where it's really focusing on journaling and your own thoughts and meditation. And I've always come away from those experiences super refreshed. And I also felt each time I do those things, that time slows down. And whenever I've practiced taking away technology for an extended period of time, it's like, oh my gosh, like how long are these days?
It's exactly right. I have a whole chapter really about time does slow down. I mean, every week, I can't wait till Friday night because I've had a very intense couple weeks with the MoMA show, but you turn off the screens and immediately time starts to feel luxurious and like it's ample. Whereas normally I feel like I'm always running behind the 8 ball and I don't have enough time. And on this 24 hours, Friday night to Saturday night, it's like the longest day. Time slows down. I journal, I reflect, I hang, I feel reconnected to myself, my husband, my kids. And it just feels like I get that every week. And, there's a handful of times a year I can't do it. Like last Saturday was my show, MoMA. And I am just needing it so badly. Like, I cannot wait to get back into balance. And that's the way I feel, is like to feel that slowness of time, to kind of reflect and just, I feel like I get my soul back. And I think your reaction when like the people said to you, I can't believe it, a day a week. And it's so crazy to me, but that was people's reactions before they read the book. And then they read the book and then they do it and they're like, oh my God, I get myself back. Because we're so available to the world and everything all the time. And I just don't think we were designed to exist that way. I think everything needs an off switch. Even your computer does better when you reboot it. And we're never rebooting ourselves. We're never off. And what happens is the culmination of that is just that we're always just kind of overly stimulated all the time.
I remember one of the comments that stuck with me when I heard you speak was about the complaint that can happen from your kids where I'm bored. I'm super bored. And when I actually, with my own family, I set some boundaries around, like just right now what we do is no technology from 7 to 9. Because my kids are going to bed and I don't want them on devices. Because there's all these studies showing that it impacts sleep if you're on technology right before bedtime. So I just said, and also the doctor put them down in their health checks, like, hey, no technology an hour before bedtime. And so I said, look, doctor says it. I totally agree with that. And so I actually did 2 hours. I said basically from 7 to 9, that's your time to, read, take a shower, get ready, relax, before tomorrow. And when I first shared this very simple 2-hour rule, the complaint from my kids was, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. And I remember
Right.
your response was like, isn't that great? Like, that's actually
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah, because I think kids need to know what it feels like to be bored, because usually, first of all, that is the groundswell of creativity, is being bored. But just to be able to know how to be with yourself and entertain yourself is a really good skill to teach our kids. And if they don't know what to do when they don't have a screen in front of them, that's not a good, you're not teaching them resilience or how to exist in the world. You're just teaching them to pick up a screen whenever they have a moment. And by doing this practice in our house, it's like we value being bored, we value being together, we value being together without the screens. And we always have a big meal on Friday night that's really festive and special, and we value that. And then we value quiet time too, because some people say, oh, we have so many plans every weekend, we could never do it. And I'm like, do you need to have so many plans all weekend? Like, we're all so scheduled out to the max. And how do you kind of create a boundary, just like what you said, where you create space back for, family day, if you have kids. And if you don't have kids, just a day to just be. And like, that is also important too. My husband started doing Shabbats when he was single, and he talked about it, just like a day to recenter. And I think right now we've got that phone on all the time. And I think the sad part is that it's created this dynamic that it holds all the power for us. And we need to remember that we have a lot of power in just being, and we need to tap into that more. I've heard this thing recently, which I really love, which is that when you're on social media, when you're scrolling, it makes you feel both connected and lonely at the same time. And I think if people really checked in with themselves, how they feel when they're mindlessly scrolling all throughout the day, which everyone does, is that it makes you feel connected and lonely. And have more experiences. Wow. Yeah, isn't that heavy?
That's really heavy. Like, connected and lonely. Wow, that is so true, though. It's so true.
Yeah. It is, because I get into that cycle too. I've been traveling a lot for the show, and I just like, it's so addictive, and yet I don't feel good afterwards. I just don't. And you just check in with yourself. You're not feeling good, and yet you just can't stop doing it. And how do you create boundaries so you have space where you're not looking at anybody else's lives but your own? And you're just, and one of the things I write about in the book and I talk about in the show is that when you're on the web, you're in a constant state of like, you can never get enough. You can't get enough email, stressful news headlines, notifications, social. You just can't. You want. You're just always wanting. And when you turn it off, not only does time slow down, but you're in a state of appreciation. You just appreciate what's right in front of you instead of wanting what you don't have.
That is so true. Because I feel like even probably some of the most popular apps that are out there, YouTube, Reddit, you can just keep scrolling. It just never ever ends.
There's never going to get to the bottom of it.
Never ends. And man. And I notice whenever I'm like scrolling, like time goes by really quickly.
Right.
It's
the opposite. It's like you're scrolling through your life. And one of the lines I say in the book and in the show is, how you spend your days is how you spend your life. And if you really track, actually, I turned off the feature where it was like timing my usage, because I didn't feel like it was an accurate reflection, because it didn't know what I was doing when I was on those things. Like sometimes I was working. If it doesn't really know what you're doing, it's not valuable information, I feel like. But just checking in on how much of your day you're staring at screens versus talking to people, looking up from the screen, being with your kids, or And
that's really good practical advice too. Like the next time you're about to click, push Facebook or push Twitter on your phone, ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? And how long? What's the purpose here? What's the purpose here? Yeah. Just checking, like you said, being self-aware, checking in, like, what am I about to do? Why do I need to press here? Or why do I want to press here? And then how much time am I willing to give this app of my time?
Right. That's right. Yeah. I wish I would create something that says, what need are you trying to fill? Like every time you pick up your phone, just like a pop-up. That's
good. I also liked when you were talking with us at the JCC about wonder, and about how you were saying how you're with your family and you were talking about a baseball player, and just wondering something about the baseball player. And you're like, if you were not at Shabbat, you would just go Google to find out the answer.
Right.
But you were like saying like, isn't it wonderful to just wonder and not have the answer? Like you can get the answer tomorrow, but just
to think about it, ponder. What's the answer to that? But that's like exercising your curiosity muscle. Like it's a little too easy. Like remember, you have to go to the library.
yes.
Work, and now like, oh my God, what's the question? I'm gonna have the answer. But it's like there's something valuable about pondering.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's a beautiful thing that we don't do very often because now we've got Siri, we got Google to quickly tell us the answer. But yeah, like.
Well, that's also like having a day where the internet doesn't hold all the answers. Like there is something valuable that something else doesn't hold all the answers. Because I find a lot on Saturdays, I do a lot of thinking and reflection, and I have a lot of answers that I'm not ever quieting the noise to hear. So if you give yourself the space to listen to your inner thoughts, you need to create an environment to hear what that's saying.
I took your advice about being curious and wondering and not constantly going to devices. And I hike a lot, and I use an app called All Trails, and I'm always using it to see where I'm at on the trail. But what's kind of crazy is like I'm like out there to spend time in nature, right, by myself. Like that's the goal, kind of silence and solitude. But I keep checking in with my phone like every 5 minutes. Am I on the right path? And when you were talking about like wondering and curiosity, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be fine. I'm not in the middle of nowhere. I'm on a hiking trail in the middle of a city. If I go 30 minutes in any direction, I'm going to be on a road. Nothing's bad is going to happen to me. And so I just put my phone away in my backpack for emergency reasons. And I'm like, actually, it's kind of fun now going on trails and just, I wonder where this path takes me. Exactly. I'm going to go ahead and pick this path. Oh, I wonder where this goes. Because if it's not the right way, I'll just go back.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I love what you just said. I wonder. Just the I wonder has gotten lost. I wonder where that path would take me. I wonder what the answer is. It's just like space to give yourself space to get lost and to think, and all of those things I think are really important.
Yeah. In fact, I was telling my friends, I got really excited because this morning I took some random trails and I found like a little single track trail that was not even on the map when I looked at it later. And so I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to go investigate this new trail that I'm really excited about.
That's great.
I can't wait to do it. But like you're saying, like, I think I was just really impacted by your talk about being more curious, spending time wondering, because that is like what it means to be human. And the devices sometimes will fill that need for us. And that's not necessarily a good thing because we stop wondering, we stop being curious. We're just getting that instant feedback.
Yeah. I guess somebody's wondering behind me.
Hi. I like right now is like the time where I'm kind of like trying to model the right behavior with technology with my son. I want them to see like this is how dad is. Like when I get home from work, I want to be that model. Like I put my phone away in the room. I'm going to be present with my kids.
Good for you.
That's my whole, that's my model. I want to model that constantly.
Yeah, at dinner, there's no screens. I mean, my husband, like we do this full day from Friday night to Saturday night. But, because he's a professor, but he works a lot from home, and so do I. So I think that boundary, like when they're home, that's a hard thing. Because I have a film studio I go into twice a week. But then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I want to be home and greet them when they come home from school and work from home. Of course, I still have some work to do from like 3 to 5.
Oh, right.
Well, and it is about, I think, going back to this concept of boundaries, that what was so liberating about technology is you could work from anywhere. But then the problem is we were working from everywhere, and there was no separation between being with your family or working, when you could always take a business call, and just kind of redefining those boundaries. And, I feel very creative in the morning. So I get up at like 5 to write from 5 to 7. And then, it's just about thinking about when when you're with your kids, to be with your kids, when you're working, to be working. I mean, right now people are working and they're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And it's like, I mean, if we could just bring some kind of boundaries back. So it's like we're doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing instead of right now is we're multitasking on everything. And the way I describe it is it's like we're in a constant state of nowhere.
And you think you're everywhere.
Yeah, you think you're everywhere, but it's an illusion because you're not really anywhere. And, you know, pretty soon it's not going to be like looking down at your phone because it's going to be more pervasive technology with augmented reality and on your glasses and your contact lenses. And I think even more we're going to need to rise up and say, what are the things to be human so that I am present in this moment and not half present everywhere.
Where do you see things headed? Like as we're getting more busy with different apps on our phones and there's always some new, social networking site popping up that's grabbing our attention.
Well, I'm really trying to start a conversation. I mean, just like in the early days of the Webby Awards, where I was trying to get in the conversation going about this technology is going to change our lives. And right now with the book and the show and all the talks that I'm doing, and I'm really trying to have a conversation to like, look at the way we're living. This doesn't feel good to anyone. What's the best part of tech and what's the part that is not great? And how do we distinguish between the two? So I really hope that this conversation makes people a lot of people say after they read my book or they hear me speak that they look at their phone differently and they're more conscious of it. So I feel like we're at this moment where the pendulum has swung way too far and it's out of control. And like, how do we bring our humanity back in? And where I have hope is that, I did used to be a smoker in my 20s and everyone smoked back then. And then a combination of like health campaigns and research and, kind of the cool factor and all this stuff, it changed. And so I'm hoping, all the research is out. Teen suicide has doubled since 2007 when the iPhone came out. People aren't feeling good. Liking content, it shows the link to depression, all this stuff. And people don't feel great and people want to make a change. So then, hopefully I would love for it to be uncool to like pull out your phone and put it on the table when you're talking to someone, or just pull out your phone. Like, no, actually you're just talking to someone. And how do you make these kind of spaces for being human important and just say, it's fine to be on technology, just not all the time. That's not a good way to live.
And sometimes, Tiffany, I'm like at home and we'll have the TV on and my kids will have the iPads and then we'll also have the phones. And I'm like, we have like 3 or 4 different screens all going on at the same time. And I'm like, what's going on? We can't, and that's the part where I'm like talking with the family, like, look, this is not a healthy, like, of course, there's going to be times where everyone's kind of doing their own thing and it's party happening or whatever. That's totally fine. But as a normal practice, we'd say like, it's not a good thing, right? That we're all we're all in the same room, but different spaces.
We're all in our own little worlds. Yeah, I really think I've never felt our country be more divided than right now. And I think it's because everyone's staring at their own little device and their own truth and their own world. And that's why in the home, like creating a space, I love that you do 7 to 9, no screens. I might try to implement that. And we do it where it's like pretty much 7:30, we go upstairs and there's no technology upstairs, which is really nice. And I usually recommend that, to not let kids bring technology to their bedrooms. Then it becomes like a private world and it's very hard to kind of break that away. But at the dinner table, we don't really eat breakfast together because everyone goes off at different times. But the dinner table is like a sacred space. And then, of course, our Friday nights to Saturday nights. And just reminding people, there was a friend of mine who read the book. He's like, he wanted to start a campaign called Tech Check. It was hashtag. It was something he said when everyone's being ridiculous and staring at the device.
Yeah.
Many emails to all get together to have lunch and everyone's on their phone, like Tech Check. And I was like,
I like that. I like that
idea. But then he said, I was all excited about adopting that. And then he said Andrew Yang started using it in his campaign. But I still think we could use it like just as a term of like, hello, let's be human again. Let's get out of the world.
Totally. Your book outlines all these different practical ways that we can all begin to be breaking up with our phones and taking more space and more time for ourselves. Do you have any practical tips you can share for those who've never done it before, who are thinking about, gosh, taking 24 hours, I'm not ready for that, but I do want to take a step to reduce my tech habit.
Yeah, I go into that in the book too. I mean, something I've done since the election, which has been changed my whole day, is I don't look at my phone when I wake up. So I have a journal, and when you look at your phone right when you wake up, you're letting the news, emails, social media affect your mood. Instead of you saying, what do I want this day to be? What's going to happen in this day? And you setting the framework. So that was a huge thing I did. I also wear a watch. So when you're looking for the time, you're not always going for your phone. I keep a day journal, a day planner, and it augments my Google Calendar. But it's really nice when you're waiting somewhere to pull out your day, your printed day book, go through it, write some things down. It's very calming. And I think the biggest thing I'd say is to write a list of what you wish you had more time to do. Because, when you're scrolling 30 minutes here, an hour there, 30 minutes there, it fills up a lot of your leisure time, like 3 or 4 hours a day. And if you thought, I used to read more, I used to cook more, I used to play an instrument, but if everyone in the family, or just if you're single, what do you wish you had more time to do? And then fill your time without screens with that. So it's like a joyous time. And I do walk people through in the book, a lot of mini interventions throughout the week. But I feel like the big one that resets me each week is no screens for 24 hours. It seems to do this very profound reset for me every week. But I do think there's the other big one is turn off all your notifications on your phone. There was a point where I couldn't even get a thought out. There was the news, there was the social media notification, it was like email notifications. I mean, I was just like an emotional pinball machine. And when I turn them all off, the only people that can notify me is if my husband or daughters call. Completely changed the relationship to my phone, because I go into my phone instead of it coming to me. And we're already checking it 80 times a day. I don't miss anything, but it's not pinging me every second. There's nothing that important. I would also highly recommend getting a landline. That's what we use on our tech Shabbats, but there's other ways to communicate. And just to think of yourself as like, respect yourself and just your being, that there's a lot of valuable time spent just being by yourself and with the people that you love right in front of you, instead of always feeling like there's something more important on your phone.
And it's funny, you just said 80 times. I think I just saw a study that's totally accurate. It's like 80 to 85 times we pick up our phone. I was like, what? No, I'm like, that can't be real. That can't be true.
It's true.
But that's the stats, like how many times we pick up our phones.
I believe it.
Yeah, with or without notifications.
Exactly. So it's like, change the relationship to your phone already, is that you're going to go into your phone instead of your phone coming to you.
Do you have any, or do you use like any apps to help you with boundaries, or is this all?
I don't. I did this social media where I would time myself, but like I said, I didn't feel like it was valuable information because it didn't know what I was doing, because I do a lot of work online. No, I don't. I just, I read before I go to bed. I don't look at my phone before I go to sleep because of all the blue light issues, because I have problems sleeping. I don't look at it when I wake up. I write in my journal. But I'm just like everyone. There's times throughout the week where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on it too much. And that's why this like weekly practice really resets me. But, I think a great thing to do is, like, I love when you go for a walk, put your phone in your backpack. And actually at work now, there's all this research that just seeing somebody else's phone off will make you less focused. So at my office, we have policy to put phones in the bag. Don't just have it on your desk, ready to be distracted at any moment. And it really changes the vibe in the office also.
Oh, I like that.
I think be mindful of how you're affecting other people. Because, pulling out your phone is like yawning. You pull out your phone, everyone's going to pull out their phone. Everyone's going to disengage. And there's not that many times when we're really together as humans. And think about all those little in-between moments when you get coffee, you're in a cab, you go to the library. These are like what knit together the fabric of society, is having these little connections. And now we're just like kind of grunting and faking our way through it because we're really looking at our phone. And just think of those moments as opportunities to kind of knit together the fabric of society.
Oh, I love that. I heard someone mention how, like, when you're with your family or if you're with your team at the office, like, that's an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And anything you do can impact that ecosystem for positive or negative.
That's right.
And what you're just saying is about like, if I pull out my phone and I'm with my family, how will it impact them?
Yeah,
Well, in many cases, they're probably going to pull out their devices.
that's right. It's like secondhand smoke for attention. That's the way I look at it. So it's a whole consciousness that needs to happen of how we're using it, how we're affecting others, when we should not use it. And I think it's just a big shift that needs to happen.
I'm curious about the Facebook community that's been built around your book, 24/6.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, and also some of the stories people are sharing?
Well, it's very fun because people are trying tech Shabbats, or they want to be more intentional with their tech use, and they're all introducing themselves, and then they're writing blogs about their experiences and how great it's been, or problems, things they ran into, and I try to give any advice I can. But it's really great. It's called 24/6 Living. And on my website at 24sixlife.com, I have a lot of resources because I made a lot of films on the subject too, short films. But I think everyone's really wrestling with this stuff right now. But it's nice to have this community. And in the paperback edition, which I was just working on, I put it in there because we only started the Facebook group after the book came out. There's so many people on there now. And it's really fun. Everyone's just there because they know they want to live differently with technology.
That's awesome. We're definitely going to be recommending the community, and we're also going to link to it on our blog because that sounds so cool. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for being our guest on Data Talk. We're definitely going to be encouraging everyone to check out 24/6, the book. Fantastic, and a great call to action for everybody.
Thank you so much. It's so nice, and I love hearing the way you're bringing this into your life. We need more people doing that. So thank you for having me on the show, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Data Talk. We share out new episodes every single week, and you can find the full catalog of previous episodes as well as YouTube videos by going to the Experian news blog. The URL is just experian.com/datatalk. And as always, we love hearing from our community. So if you have any comments or suggestions for future shows, please reach out. You can find us on Twitter at Experian Data Lab, or you can always reach out to me directly. My email is michael.delgado@experian.com. Take care, and we'll chat next week.